And now it's time for our first keynote, which will be held by Professor Peter Sachsenmeier. And as he sent me over his CV, I was pretty impressed and I didn't know where to start because there's basically everything on there. So I will keep it quite briefly and he will explain everything on top there. So first of all, you're the president of the International Innovation Center. You're the vice president of the Hankou University. And you're also the ambassador of the city of Wuhan in China, which is pretty impressive, but then there's a list that is going on and going on and going on. So I'm really happy to get some insights from you, and thanks for being with us here, and thanks for flying in from China. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's all due to old age. CVs become longer, honors come your way, and people ask you to write forewords to books rather than let you write the books. All happened in the last few weeks. So let me briefly tell you that I'm going to do 4 things. The first is I'm going to tell you a bit about my competencies and work because it's relevant to today's topic. Second, I want to tell you about approaches, different approaches to Industry 4.0 in different geographies. Third, no discussion of Industry 4.0, at least comparative discussion, is worth anything if we don't look at the new grand strategy, One Belt, One Road, of the Chinese government. And I'm also going to discuss that. And finally, I'll select a few topics, trajectories, opportunities that I think are worth pursuing. So let me quickly start with number 1. As I said, it's not about advertising for myself, it's about explaining things that are relevant. I've worked on all continents in the world and lived on all continents except Australia. For the last 7 years, I've been conducting smart city research with the Indian and Chinese Academies of Science. And in 2006, I was elected a member of the German National Academy for Science and Engineering, ACATEC, and they are the people who invented the term Industry 4.0. About 2 years ago, I started to pursue a big dream to build up an international innovation center in Wuhan. Now, Wuhan in the Chinese setup is not particularly prestigious, so I've had to explain to people, and I told them that if they want to go to fabulous Shanghai or to arrogant Beijing, they should do so. But if they want to come to normal China, they should come to me in Wuhan. So for all of you who want to come to me in Wuhan, I've put my business cards here, and there's a way to do it. And I have room. Now, prestigiously, I was also appointed vice president at a Chinese university where my center is, and it comes with a lot of respect and honor and some awkward duties for a German. For example, I regularly award certificates to Communist Party members who've done good teaching work and other things. And I have, in fact, in my position, although it's blue, a pen of the Communist Party of China. So, now in my International Innovation Center, I pursue all the topics of the current industrialization of China. And let me describe some of these large knowledge areas to you because it's part of the talk of today. Now, I'll list them. One is industrial automation with IT, meaning robotics, integrated industries, integrated logistics. A second one is Industry 4.0, that is combination with the internet, smart factory, virtual reality, communication with sensors. A third one, which is not as yet appreciated by the Chinese, is predictive or smart maintenance, meaning that in order to keep machines and infrastructure working in Industry 4.0, you need some real-time information that you also react on proactively. We have started a large rail project where we're trying to do smart maintenance for rail systems. And also part of predictive maintenance are platform businesses in this area for industries, services and finance. And this will form a large part of what we do. But as I said, the Chinese have little understanding for the fact that you do maintenance. In Germany, maintenance is about 15% of the national product. The Chinese way of dealing with maintenance is knock it down, build it new. Then the fourth large knowledge area is process automation for all branches of industry. We have all kinds of projects that do this, and in a coherent and holistic way. For example, in waste disposal, we attack the topic of battery disposal. The fifth point is integrated energies and energy management. All the stuff they store, batteries are a big topic in China. And of course, part of projects in that area is visualization of data and big data. The sixth area is innovative services. In my work, I find that the Chinese are very good at identifying products, but very bad at identifying services as an opportunity. Even though the State Council, which has excellent advice, tries to promote services, but it's lip service at the moment. But we're trying to go into sustainable technologies. One of the services areas that I have identified as one of great promise is measurement technologies, which can be used as services in very many industries. And Germany is, of course, very good measurement. Now, a seventh topic, which has come up, I will deal with this a little more, which has come up because I know that Industry 4.0 creates both hope and fear, but a considerable amount of fear, both here in Germany and also in Asia. A seventh topic is training. I'll get to this in a moment. And beyond current topics in China's industrialization, we try to deal with topics like bionics, biotechnologies, logistics along One Belt, One Road, new materials such as lightweight machines, and finally, very important, environmental green techs, currently for water. For example, I have here, and I'm happy to give it to anyone who likes it and send it. We're going to do a first conference on advanced materials and technologies along the Silk Road for Industry 5.0 with a lot of biotech in it. And I've written a well-published article in the journal Engineering about Industry 5.0, about bionics and synthetic biology. So that's stuff that I do. Now, let me address the topic of insecurity. Anecdote. The city of Wuhan invited me to go on a weekend outing with 25 yellow cranes. The yellow crane is the symbol of the city of Wuhan. And in China, every municipality is asked to acquire new talent. And these 25 yellow cranes were people, Chinese people, which Wuhan had bought in from overseas. People who as engineers had worked in America, in Japan, other places, and they had been lured back to work in Wuhan with a promise of apartments, places, jobs, etc. So excellent engineers. And when they talked among each other, I heard, yeah, and I'll get to that in a moment. Peter has shown us the maturity model of Industry 4.0, but we hope it won't go very far. And even these excellent engineers were afraid of the challenges that we're facing with Industry 4.0. So, and you know that we have a discussion here in Germany, which people like to call World of Work 4.0, and I think it is palliative. It's not real. No real discussion. So, the insecurity that people have about this is, number one, like all of us, disintermediation, meaning robots and sensors will replace us. The second thing is that these yellow cranes and many other people have doubts about their own qualifications in this whole fast developing industrial world. Let me quickly describe to you why they have such fears, and let me quickly describe to you the maturity model which I've constructed. In my opinion, the maturity model has 4 stages. The maturity model for Industry 4.0. Easy to remember. So if you remember now, you can do it, all right? You'll appear very clever. The first step in Industry 4.0 is an optimization of production and logistics. That's what we all understand. The second stage is that all processes in the firm are going to be optimized. Sales, purchasing, human resources, etc. So, production logistics, second step, all in the firm. Third step is that you start to optimize and apply Industry 4.0 criteria to your whole network, your whole ecosystem, your suppliers, your customers, your entire industrial ecosystem. And the fourth is you do this worldwide along a best practice model. So my yellow cranes, my excellent engineers, talked among themselves and said they're quite comfortable with optimizing production because that's what they learned. They agree that some of the logistics they could sort of handle, but already the staff with having to interface with all the other functions in the firm made them uneasy, leave alone to interface and influence in an uncertain power arrangement an entire network of suppliers, customers, ecosystems, and of course worldwide. Totally impossible. So they talked among themselves and said, we hope this is not coming anytime soon. So that was the insecurity and the maturity model. Let me come to my third point. My third point is to discuss and make a pronouncement on how Industry 4.0 is seen in the world. Now, let me leave out Germany a bit, but say that it's, of course, a top-down model. It's a model that is benefiting research and institutes slightly more than the firms as of now, although there are a few firms that are very excellent examples, and that Industry 4.0 is an attempt to secure the status of Germany as an industrial superpower. So the drawback in Germany is that, in fact, Industry 4.0 has been seen as a means to optimize production, whereas other people like the Industrial Internet Consortium in the US have long applied this to energy, health, the public sector, transport, and many others. If we look at the corresponding concept in China, we find a concept which is called Make in China 2025, often misspelt as Made in China, but the make indicates that it's an intention. So China intends to become a world leader in electric vehicles, in new materials, in artificial intelligence, in semiconductors, in biopharmacy, in 5G mobile communication, etc. And China is prepared to make changes rather rapidly when things don't work out. remember perhaps from my earlier introduction that for 7 years I researched smart cities, and I thought I had a fair grounding, especially since I had several Chinese publications in this area. But somehow along the road somebody decided that even though smart cities was one of the things that were much talked about, funding for this could also stop, because none of the effects took place that people had originally hoped for. And I was most astonished that about a month ago I was told that my pitch for a big smart city contract in Wuhan was cancelled because no more funding. So just as fast as topics turn up, people are prepared to turn off topics and go to new ones. In the US, there are several ecosystems. The most well-known is the Industrial Internet Consortium, IIC, and they see Industry 4.0 as a way to promote new businesses and new business worlds. So digital innovations are quickly tested in real business. They want to use the industrial internet as a way to encourage startups and, of course, as we all know now, but knew before, to revive American industries. In this case, not the old ones. The Chinese, as I said, have a pragmatic approach. What is so interesting is that they're interested in immediately acquiring mature technologies. So the whole German approach of long-term planning, feasibility studies, etc., are not welcome. Things have to happen now and be developed fast and within a very tight timetable. Let me go to some other countries. India. I don't know whether any of you know the word Jagad. Jagad in Hindi means that it will do. So Jagad is an intermediate technology approach where things are done so that they work. But we know also that in India we have a very large knowledge base among the people who've been doing IT services for international companies. So this work for the multinational companies is actually accelerating China's approach to the digital industries. Very large knowledge base, not only in the information factories, but also in the bioscience factories. Most of the testing worldwide for the biopharma sectors happens in India. Let me look at Japan and South Korea. That's a very interesting one because it's not usually in our newspapers. What they do is they try to grab individual technologies and approaches and scale them up. And they scale them up not only in Japan and South Korea, but also in their satellite production countries. Both Japan and Korea have very large industrial production facilities all over Asia, and they try to scale them up there as well. So they try to build up Industry 4.0 capabilities and learn fast in those countries as well, all at once, stage 4 worldwide. And perhaps we should also say something about our neighbors, England, France, Spain. The approaches there are to build up local strong capabilities and address industries that are identified as strong. For example, the UK, where I live, is trying to build up its entire security personnel and capability as a part of a strong industrial sector, as Industry 4.0. Good. Let me come to the penultimate point. Yidai Yilu, one belt, one road. Now, many of you have read in the newspapers about a summit that has taken place recently in Beijing. And one or two of my friends have become very excited and have told me that since that somebody's talking about $1 billion fund, we should get some of that money. Now, let me say that my estimate is that, like with our development aid in Germany, a lot of that money will stay in China. A lot of our development aid money stays in Germany and funds institutions here. So, but this new grand strategy of China doesn't only give China a new role, it's also an attempt to deal with the surplus production capability in China. We must know that. Now let me give you some facts and figures and quickly tell you that the One Belt, One Road, which you have probably seen as the sea route and the land route of the old Silk Roads, is a bit misleading, because China has been very opportunistic and has invested in other countries outside the immediate One Belt, One Road. $21 billion in Nigeria, $9.5 billion in Argentina, $26.1 in Pakistan, 100 million in Cuba, and $11 billion in Ethiopia, because Ethiopia is one of those satellite production places. Now, let me tell you that this will shape things around the world, and let me quickly, just like I did in a summary with Industry 4.0, go through Belt and Road. Now, the important thing is that Belt and Road will develop in reaction to countries' reaction. Uncle Xi, the Chinese president, is in Kazakhstan at the moment, and a lot of how the One Belt, One Road initiative is perceived there it will depend on the reaction of the ruling elites of Kazakhstan. But the trade redirections that will be happening as part of One Belt, One Road will be felt everywhere. So people are reacting to it all over the world differently. In North America, a lukewarm commercial interest, they have some sense of political threat, but it is far away for them. In Europe, we have an interesting difference among different countries. There's considerable interest in Eastern Europe linked with One Belt, One Road. And there's mainly no threat sense. In Russia, China has already invested about $8.4 billion as part of the strengthening of the infrastructure in Russia for One Belt, One Road. And so the Russians reluctantly accept the economic presence of the Chinese in Central Asia, but they hope to retain their political dominance there. In Central Asia, people see this as a linking of hitherto separated countries and states, and of course, given Beijing's economic and financial power, China can deliver projects no other country can. Japan is similarly affected. One of the things that you perhaps don't realize is that Japan is a major contractor in international infrastructure projects, and their infrastructure project capability is threatened by One Belt, One Road, but they will eventually benefit from completed transportation facilities. Funnily enough, Latin America, North and West Africa, as I've said, have already benefited from Chinese investment in infrastructure and are, of course, a perpetual target for China's hunger for raw materials. In the Middle East, they see this as a pragmatic thing, no particular political feelings. Pakistan is interesting again, because Pakistan has a declared special relationship with China, and there is a CPEC, an economic zone formed between Pakistan and India. So they hope this will strengthen. However, especially from the Chinese side, there are continuous fears about the physical security of these projects. Indians are skeptical, but they want deeper economic relations. And then there are a whole lot of other countries that are affected and that will inevitably be drawn into this. This is the whole of Southeast Asia. Just a few figures. Bangladesh has already had $13.5 billion, Laos 8.2, Indonesia 9.6, Malaysia 12.6. Some of the projects have not been well received because some of the infrastructure construction is done entirely with Chinese personnel, as for example in the much celebrated Kenyan new railroad between Nairobi and Mombasa that was inaugurated last week. That was entirely built with Chinese workers. But in many ways it is expected that the Chinese, through One Belt, One Road, will buy off their rivals in the maritime disputes that are currently ongoing in the South China Sea. So, that's a quick and perhaps eye-opening tour d'horizon through both Industry 4.0 and One Belt, One Road, which are very tightly linked. Let me give you, as my final statement, a few ideas that I see worthwhile pursuing. And please see these as individual ideas. They don't exclude other ideas, but these are things that I will do. Now, number one, Industry 4.0 is very much a work in progress. There are huge differences in capabilities within China, and a lot remains to be done to fulfill the promise. There is a great difference, and a difference I hope to narrow insofar as universities and research institutes in China so far do not make a very great contribution to industrial development. As I continually tell my Chinese counterparts, the Germans are in love with universities and the Chinese are in love with companies. There is something not seen so far, and that is the trend that there is huge convergence. So old subject limits and delineations and borders don't apply anymore. The divergence is between nano, info, and bio. Easy to remember. Nano, info, bio. Nano, yes, thank you. Info, and then bio. Okay? So, as I said, we're holding a conference, New Materials, Silk Road, and Digital in Wuhan, and money is important. So, a bit of fintech. Much remains to be done. Oil and gas, rail, transport, smart home, smart energy. Soft aspects need to be improved a lot. Collaboration is a very important topic which is very difficult for Chinese to achieve. It is difficult to get to the kinds of small working groups among perceived competitors. Training, I've said that before, and then there is the terrible changing nature of the firm because of Industry 4.0. Meaning that the firm as we know it today may change so dramatically that the love affair with a big company is in vain. Good. China, of course, looks at Europe much more carefully than we do. This is a Chinese publication in which I wrote a chapter. Basis and sources of the innovation capability of Germany, published by a Chinese National Academy in China in 2 languages. And so I told you what I do to illuminate some of the aspects. I told you how Industry 4.0 is perceived worldwide. I looked at the linked topic of One Belt, One Road. I showed you a few trajectories, assessments, things I want to do. I thank you very much.
Thank you, Peter. 1 second.